What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday afternoon. We got 6 main topics for you guys today. The first reviews for the upcoming Echo MCU series is certainly out there. We're going to be discussing some of those for you guys. Spider-Man Noir's television series is back in the news. We're also going to go ahead and dive into some new DCEU casting as James Gunn continues to add to that universe. We even got some Jay and Silent Bob sequel discussion. We have a lot to certainly talk about, guys. So we'll see you in just a minute. What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? Thank you guys so much for certainly joining us. We got ourselves a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report for you today. Not going solo dolo. We got my boy Stuart in the house, certainly joining us today as always. Unfortunately, Indy could not be here today. Hopefully, he'll be able to join us later on this week. But we do have some upcoming content for you guys. We got the opportunity to record a video earlier this week. Probably not going to drop this upcoming week, but the following, so definitely look out for that. But we got 6 main topics, a couple honorable mentions we're going to kick off at the top, and of course your live viewer questions at the end of the show. If you have not submitted your live viewer question, feel free to go ahead and do so. If you're watching us over on our YouTube channel, or go to our YouTube channel, click on that community tab, and there is in fact a post ready for our live viewer questions, so feel free to submit them down below. But what's going on, Stuart, man? It's good to see you here. How's your Sunday treating you so far?
I've been a really good Sunday so far. Yeah, everything's going pretty good on my end. How about you?
Not too bad. It's a little chilly out here in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't know where everybody else is certainly at. So hopefully the weather's pretty good, or at least you're keeping yourself warm. It's about maybe 50 out here today. How's your weather out there, Stuart, for San Francisco?
It started raining a couple days ago, and I thought it was going to be like that for a while, but no, it's sunny again all of a sudden. I just went outside to pick up some dumplings, and yeah, full on. You would think that it was spring.
Damn. Okay, we need to change weather for just a couple days, man. That sounds great, honestly.
Yeah. Have you been dealing with like heavy snow in Texas? Because I know that was like a huge issue last year, or it was like last year or the year before.
We rarely get snow out here. We're more of like ice storms. I mean, we'll get a little snow mixed in with the ice, but it tends to be more treacherous with the ice around here. I don't know if we're gonna have any snow this year, man. Honestly, I mean, if we do, it probably won't happen till like January, February. But it doesn't really happen too often. But I'm kind of looking forward to it. Now that I think about it, after we had our son, I want to say that same year we had him, there were some snow flurries out there because I remember taking him out, bundling him up and stuff. He didn't know what the hell snow was at the time anyway, but I would love it to snow, honestly, so he can get the opportunity to kind of see what it's like.
Yeah, teach your kid how to snowball fight.
Exactly. That's the one thing I will say that I do miss about living on the East Coast for sure, is some snowball fights. I mean, you might get like one day here in Texas where that's available to you, maybe half a day before the sun comes out again and melts everything. But I would assume in your area, you probably don't get any snow, right? Being on the coast.
Yeah, no. I can literally count on one hand how many snow days I've had in my whole life.
Man, I guess that is the benefit of going to school on the East Coast, is that we do get those snow days. Some days we didn't have to make up again, but I do miss those snow days for sure. But yeah, guys, let me know where you're at, and if how the weather's certainly treating you guys. It's been a little bit weird around here, but I will say, being in Texas, I feel like sometimes the weather changes so drastically that you kind of feel like you just miss out on seasons. But for some reason this year, I mean, I feel like me and the girlfriend have been noticing the leaves, slowly falling a little bit more, colors really like popping this year for sure. It feels more like a transition from season to season, which kind of blows my mind when it comes to Texas. But weather's just all over the place right now.
Mm-hmm.
But let's stop talking about weather, Stuart. People didn't come here for no weather, man.
Oh
People
wait,
came here.
we're not changing to a weather themed YouTube channel. Damn.
I mean, look, we got the sun, we got the sunny skies out, the clouds behind us in our background, so it's feeling kind of sunny here. But let's give some people some love for those that are in our live chat. And look, if you're watching us live, do us a big favor, man. Hit that like button. Doesn't cost you anything. You can support the channel very easily if you continue to like our content and you're joining us live. Hit that like button, guys. It really does go a long way. And if you're joining us, feel free to throw your comments and thoughts into the live chat as we discuss some of these particular topics. We definitely would love to discuss them with you as well. Shout out to Enrique. What's up, Enrique? Certainly good to see you. So I just saw the trailer for Pixar's Soul, Turning Red, and Luca are headed to movie theaters for the first time in 3 years since 2024. Also, Disney has nominations for Critics' Choice Awards in 2024. He says also said that Marvel Studios is going to release new shows on Disney Plus and one movie in theaters with Deadpool 3. Yeah, so Marvel right now, we only got one MCU movie scheduled for 2024 right now. That's Deadpool 3, but we do have some Disney Plus shows that we can certainly look forward to. He says, finally, the Disney Parks Christmas Day Parade will celebrate its 40th anniversary and will air on ABC on Christmas. So if you guys want to check out some parades, feel free to do so. What's up, Blossom? Good to certainly see you in the house with us today. We got Ram Jam in here. It's good to see you, man. Things are going well so far. Marcelino, what's up, Marcelino? He says, I just learned that Dean Cain recently co-wrote a comic where it starts a fictional version of himself rescuing his sister from the Mexican and Chinese mafia. It's called Dean Cain, All-American Outlaw. All right, Superman.
Sounds like something he would be that would be a parody of himself, like in a fictional movie or something. Like it doesn't seem like something that would actually exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Datila, what's up, Datila? This is the first time I ever played with snow was when I went to Denver in 2017. Wow, that's pretty recent, man. Yeah, if you have not had the opportunity to really play in snow, guys, I recommend maybe trying to visit some cities on the East Coast or North during the wintertime. It's something you'll never forget for sure. All right, Stuart. Also, guys, listen, if you want to support the channel in other ways, such as monetarily, you can definitely do so in our live chat. There is the super chats and the super stickers, if I'm not mistaken. If you want to go ahead and submit a comment, feel free to go ahead and throw in a super chat if you'd like to. All proceeds definitely go to allowing us to have better content production around here, continuing to get designs created, opportunities where we can cover events, maybe go to other conventions and provide more content for you guys around here, better equipment. So we don't have any other outside main sponsors, so it's really up to you guys how you guys certainly want to help provide monetary support for the channel. So feel free to send over a super chat. We'll stop what we're doing, we'll bring you right up on the screen, and we'll give you all the attention you deserve for certainly supporting this channel in big ways. So we do appreciate that, guys. But again, if you can't support us that way, hit that like button, share these videos, tell people about us. We definitely would appreciate that as well. But Stuart, let's go ahead and kick off this show, man, with our first segment. We're going to get to some honorable mentions. So topics that we felt you certainly deserve to know about, but didn't quite make the cut for the main topics. I don't know if you have an honorable mention at all this week, Stuart. Do you?
I do have one, but it's kind of cheating for two reasons.
Okay.
One, I'm pretty sure Indy already talked about this on Anime Assemble, but two, it's also not new at all. It's been around for a while, but I just want to talk about the fact that there is a new Dragon Ball series coming out next year that I am really excited for. So it's called Dragon Ball Daima, which can translate to either evil or magic, kind of implying like evil magic is in the works or something like that. Okay. And the plot at first is what turned me away from this, because it literally just sounded like it was going to be Dragon Ball GT 2.0, but this time with Akira Toriyama behind it, because essentially it involves Goku. The plot synopsis, again, right? Yeah, exactly. The plot synopsis we originally got was Goku turning into a kid along with the main Kaioshin and the two of them go on adventures throughout like different realms in order to collect Dragon Balls and restore everything back to normal. I'm like, wow, that is literally just GT, but
Yeah,
instead of Trunks and Pam, you're replacing him with the Supreme Kai.
no
But then
joke.
seeing the trailer completely changed my mind about this, because it turns out it's not just the two of them that get turned into kids; it's everyone in Dragon Ball Z. They get turned into kids. So it's basically like kind of a chibi Dragon Ball Z in a way. But what got me was the animation and the art style. The art style feels a lot more like you're looking at the covers of Dragon Ball mangas. Like it actually
Mm.
looks very much like Akira Toriyama's. It almost looks like Akira Toriyama's the one animating it. I know that's not the case, obviously, but it straight up, the art style matches his art style so perfectly. Oh yeah, awesome! We got an image here, and then yeah, just the animation looks so fluid. Oh my gosh, I hope this is a scene in the show. I would love to see Kid Goku and Kid Vegeta the same age as their kids. That would, oh my gosh, that would be great. But yeah, animation looks so smooth. And again, this is Akira Toriyama has so much more involvement in this show than he had in Dragon Ball Super, where in Dragon Ball Super, his only big involvement is with the movies. Otherwise, he just basically writes outlines and has like people come up with their own story from those outlines. This is something where he straight up writes and I think directs episodes of the series. So basically, he is super involved in this, and so like everything through and through is Akira Toriyama in this series.
And so this takes place before Super timeline wise.
It looks like it. Currently, I'm kind of expecting this to be like its own timeline, like kind of like how Super and GT just wouldn't work in the same universe. I'm gonna assume it's probably the same with this. Like timeline wise, yeah, probably before Super, but it also probably won't try to tie into Super. I think it's really just going to be its own continuity.
Well, I think Super is canon to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I know GT certainly isn't. So I am kind of curious as to what's this Dime? What? How do you pronounce this again? Daimi?
Daima, I think
Daima.
Daima, yeah.
I am curious if this comes in between Super and Dragon Ball Z, because I was just thinking like it's just an interesting release method. You know that
Yeah.
you've released Super, which is a further in the future, but you're kind of now going backwards in time as far as like canon wise, when we're still waiting for more like Super episodes. Like I'm still waiting for more episodes from that show, from that season. So I am a little bit concerned as to the decision as to why they unveil this one, unless there's implications in this series that further will connect to further seasons of Super. I don't really know, but I would agree with you that I find it interesting, and the artwork looks pretty legit, honestly.
Yeah, from what I hear, the reason, and this is all the things that I hear from other YouTubers, so this isn't like concrete the reason, but from what I hear, the reason they're not bringing Super back currently is because Fuji TV wants more of a long-term contract, and currently the manga only has like two arcs, the Granola arc and the I forgot the other guy's name, but basically the Galactus type character in the
Mhm.
first arc that takes place after Brawly. So they want more manga arcs so that way they can have a longer term contract. And I assume the manga is going as slow as it is, probably because Akira Toriyama has stepped down in order to work on Dragon Ball Daima. So I think that once Daima is there, he'll have more time to work on Super, and therefore they may have more like content that they could actually make like a long term deal
Long term.
contract with that TV channel. But that's all from what I hear. So I could be completely full of crap.
No problem. I mean, look, when it comes to Dragon Ball, you make an announcement, I'm here for it, man. I'll definitely watch whatever they put out. Let's see here. Other honorable mentions for you guys today. The Amazon Prime series Silk, the Spider Society, is back in the news here. Now that we had the writer's strike with that ending, there was an announcement this week that the writer's room for the video series Silk Spider Society has been slated to reconvene mid to late January. So the writer's room is opening up once again. It felt very much like Silk was kind of on the fence of either completely being scrapped or not due to the writer's strike. But it does seem as though they are going to give it another shot here. It says it would be one of the last series whose writers' rooms were up and running. before the strike wind up happening. It says the delay prompted to notify Amazon Studios last month that their failure to recommence a number of writing rooms after the strike was a violation. So I think they wind up sort of shutting it down. But it says, according to sources, Amazon Studios brass have been evaluating the script material produced so far by the writing team, which is led by showrunner Angela Kang from the Walking Dead series. So the writer room start date is contingent on that and may change, I hear. So it looks like it's still kind of tentative. They plan on opening up the writers room once again, so we'll see how good the scripts continue to come out to be. But I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that this does eventually get greenlit and make it to the small screen. I'm just fascinated by the Silk character and how they're really building out this Spider-Man television world, if you will. And we do have a Spider-Man TV news for you guys later on that we'll continue to talk about. Another honorable mention in here, believe it or not, Mahershala Ali's Blade is back in the news. Entertainment Weekly this week had an article where Mahershala Ali actually spoke about Blade and actually gave us an update. So he says in an interview with EW about Netflix's Leave the World Behind, which me and the girlfriend had the opportunity to check out last night, that has Mahershala Ali in it. I really enjoyed the movie. If you haven't checked it out, please do yourselves a favor. I may actually do a review for you guys later this week. This is what Ali says. He says, we're working on it. That's the best that I could tell you. I'm really encouraged with the direction of the project. I think we'll be back at it relatively soon. So Stuart, that's actually not the words that I I thought that he would certainly have, but just based off of how the production for Blade has been halted, changing of the guard when it comes to writing and directing, just all over the place, if you will. He says, I'm sincerely encouraged in terms of where things are at and who's on board and who's leading the way as far as the writing of the script and the directing and all that. So that's the extent of what I can tell you. Stuart, do you think he's just blowing smoke up our ass, or do you think he's genuinely impressed with how Marvel has maybe rebounded and brought fresh eyes into the storytelling aspect here?
Too early to say for sure, but if I'm a betting man, I'm assuming he's probably just saying what he wants us to hear.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Mahershala Ali is a pretty straightforward dude. I mean, I think he knows he's limited to what he can certainly say. I don't think he necessarily needed to say all of that if it wasn't necessarily true on his part. So it is a little bit encouraging for me personally. I think, again, the idea that maybe the writer's strike has given them the opportunity to remold and reshape where it's at for him to maybe even want to come out and say these things. I'm going to keep my expectations low just because of the craziness that has happened when it comes to this Blade movie. But Ali certainly seems rather encouraged by what he's seen when it comes to Blade, and hopefully they'll begin true production on it, hopefully sometime this summer. And then last but not least, for honorable mentions, Stuart, the director for Godzilla -1 came out this week and talks about a potential sequel. It says it was there the filmmaker spoke about his tenure with Godzilla, and Yamazaki did admit that he was down to tackle a sequel if given a chance. He says, I wonder if they'll meet me to make one more movie. I think, is that really all he said? Yeah, I guess that's all he said. He looks like he just teased it. I thought it was a longer quote than that. But Godzilla -1 has already earned like $15 million here in the States. I believe it's, oh, I'm sorry. It says, so even with the smaller budget, Godzilla -1 has grossed nearly 50 million worldwide since November. I think he's actually even come out and said, people have been quoting the idea that the budget for Godzilla -1 was $15 million. And he was saying something along the lines of, I wish it was $15 million. So apparently maybe Godzilla -1 was actually cheaper to be made than what people are speculating. But the way that movie's tearing up the box office right now, I can't see how they don't make a sequel. And the movie itself kind of hinted at it, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, from what I had heard, this was meant to launch a whole franchise. So it's not just like a
Oh,
Godzilla sequel, but they actually want they want to kind of bring back that monster versus universe, but have it be a
okay.
little more coherent than it was back in the day. Have it actually be like mapped out. Something I think this guy could do really good on, because these movies have always been about like, somewhat social commentary in terms of like, just the greediness of mankind, and that is the Mothra movies. I think that if this guy were
Mm.
to tackle a remake of Mothra, I think he would nail it absolutely.
Yeah, maybe he'll be like the guiding light. If he does like a sequel, maybe eventually he'll be like the overseer of
He'll be the
this
Kevin
world that
Feige of the Godzilla universes.
yes, yes. So we'll see how that turns out. But that will do it for our honorable mentions for today. So thank you guys so much. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. No, I think that's probably about it. So, Stuart, are you ready to tackle these main topics with me, man?
Hells yes.
Let's go ahead and get this, buddy. Our first topic, we like starting off with some comic book movie news for you guys. And in this regards, I think it's time for us to talk about the upcoming Echo series, baby. We wind up having some news here this week. And you guys know when it comes to first reactions, I say this all the time. I usually don't highlight first reactions. We normally don't give our thoughts on YouTube videos. I don't really even post them too much over on the Facebook page or highlight them over on Twitter. Because for me, when it comes to first reviews or first impressions to stuff, I always feel like there's a built-in bias behind it. The sense of like getting the opportunity to see it first probably is just a welcome sight, right? You already feel that extreme positivity, whether you're on the red carpet or, a publicist gives you a couple of episodes to watch early before anybody else. I feel like there tends to certainly be more of a positive spin on early reviews compared to reviews that come once the project has been released and a lot more people have had the opportunity. But when it comes to the Echo series, I think the fact that the idea that I walked into the Echo series very much down on this project with all the news and the behind the scenes talk about how this series wasn't necessarily being put together, how people weren't really impressed with what they've seen. We had even heard previous reports about the idea of them just dropping Echo completely all at once, sort of thing, something that the MCU doesn't really do. So it kind of put me in that light of thinking, well, maybe this is a project that the MCU is ashamed of, doesn't really want many people to talk about, sort of thing. So they just want to drop it all at once and move past it. So I was already kind of lukewarm and feeling kind of negative about Echo. But Stuart, this week, first reviews and previews for Echo have in fact been released. There have been a lucky handful or so of people that have had the opportunity to check out the first two episodes of Echo. And because of the fact that I've had a negative opinion and a mindset towards it, I really wanted to highlight what some people are definitely talking about in here, because honestly, it continues to change my mind. I think once we got the opportunity to check out the Echo trailer, I think it really surprised people in regards to how gritty and dark and violent it certainly was. The MCU really capitalizing on that TV MA rating, if you will. And I got to tell you, the trailer floored me. And so I thought it would be worthy enough to certainly go ahead and talk about it here this week, Stuart, about the first reviews that we're hearing. And again, I would just let everybody know we'll definitely make a judgment of our own when the episodes do drop, I believe, in January. But until then, I think it's important that we go ahead and check this out. So let's see what some people, Stuart, are saying about Echo after having the opportunity of seeing a couple of episodes. This actually comes to us from comicbookresources.com, saying Marvel's Echo series gets rave reviews ahead of its release. I believe this is originally taken from another article. Looks like the direct posted this, but it looks like CBR did their own article on it. But let's talk about this. It says Echo has received early rave reviews from critics as they got to watch the first two episodes of the upcoming show at a preview screening in the United Kingdom. Bring this up. It says Much of the positive critical reception on social media centers around the action and grounded storytelling of the Phase 5 series in its first episodes. So here are some of the quotes. From the outlet No Majesties, we got Paul Klein that says, if the world-ending stakes of the MCU have you longing for something more grounded, Echo is the gritty tonic. It says 2 episode scene, and it's a hard hitting action thriller with a great sense of Native American culture. Can't wait to see the final 3 when they drop in January. So, already talking about the hard hitting action thriller and just the idea of its groundedness with the gritty. It says, meanwhile, podcaster Tyrell Charles was intrigued by the action scenes and credited the series for focusing on Maya Lopez's background. He says, I've seen 3 episodes of Echo, a grounded, character driven story with hints of bigger things to come. The strong focus on Maya's indigenous heritage and personal history intrigues me. And while some quiet moments slow the pacing, when the action scenes come, they are indeed brutal. It says, while critics are intrigued to see what's coming from the rest of Echo, some pointed out issues with the storyline and some creative decisions. They go on to say, it looks like this is from Total Films' Emily Murray. She says, enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Echo, which had an incredible and violent fight scene I want to watch again and again. The sound design is fire emoji. The brilliant Alaqua Cox continually draws me in, but I found the storytelling and pacing shaky. Excited to see the rest. And I think we have one more comment too. The digital fixes. Tom Percival said that he didn't agree with all the creative moves for the first 2 episodes. He says, saw the first 2 episodes of Echo tonight and have a lot of thoughts. I think fans of Netflix's Daredevil are going to love it. It's like Marvel remembered it can be violent and dark. Alaqua Cox is amazing, although I don't love all the creative decisions, though. He says Maya is expected to feature in the upcoming series Daredevil Born Again, and provide a bridge to that particular appearance. So some big words here, Stuart, in regards to what we're seeing and hearing from the Echo series. Again, it seems very grounded. The action clearly is violent and it hits you. If you're a fan of the Daredevil Netflix series, this is probably something for you. We're reading high praise for Alaqua Cox, who plays the Echo character in here. But more than one person has talked about the idea of maybe some iffy storytelling and interesting creative choices. But it seems in par, though, Stuart, that a lot of people are really intrigued to kind of see how the rest of the series goes, and it's left a pretty good first impression for some people. So what's standing out to you when you hear what people are saying about this series?
I love the fact that people are comparing it to the Netflix show, Daredevil, because yeah, I still think even to today, Daredevil has been Marvel's best show. They have not made anything that's topped it, despite like all their newer shows having like the bigger budgets to do so. They've just never really topped it in terms of writing quality or in terms of just like kind of showing us a real grounded layer of the MCU. So the fact that like the reviews that you've read off have been saying that like one, it's brutality and with how grounded it is, it's very similar to Daredevil in that, and also in the way that it's filmed. That's kind of the main thing that gets me excited, because that was the vibe I definitely got when I watched the trailer for the series. But it's cool to have that kind of confirmation from the reviews.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, some of the scenes from just a trailer alone, especially I love this shot of like the blood splatter on Kingpin's shirt or his suit and things like that. I mean, it definitely some brutal moments in that trailer. But yeah, man, I definitely agree. I'm look. It's kind of won me over, Stuart. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna go in here with a ton of expectations. I think there's a part of me that's still kind of hesitant. I feel like we've kind of seen this play out before in the past, in the sense of the first couple of episodes really sticking the landing, if you will. I think maybe I can't remember if it was like that for a Secret Invasion, when people got the opportunity to see the first couple of episodes but hadn't seen the rest. And as the series plays out, it really starts dragging. And unfortunately, the ending just does not deliver. So that is.
I can definitely say for a fact that was my thoughts with Secret Invasion. At least for the first episode. Like the first episode had me hooked. Like I was super into everything going on, and then just nothing happened from there. So I'm hoping that's not the case with Echo.
Yeah, I mean, that's really where my hesitancy lies. Is this going to be another one of those situations where it's like it starts off strong, people are already kind of weary about the storytelling, but does it stick its landing? And I think for me, that's going to be one of the main focuses for me going in. Especially when it comes to Aliqua Cox. I didn't mind her so much in Hawkeye, but she didn't really jump off the page for me. Or jump off the screen for me. So the fact that they're talking about how her performance is great in here, how when she is on screen, you're kind of pulled in towards her a little bit, or at least she takes control of these particular scenes. So I am looking to kind of see just the emotion that she's able to go ahead and bring forth, and I'm really interested just to kind of learn a little bit more of her backstory, especially her connection here to Kingpin. So I do think that there is room for there to be the type of storyline where you can really sink your teeth into. It's just going to be a matter of, for me, wondering if they have executed the action and the violence more, but yet flounders when it comes to the character driven stuff and the storytelling. So I think it's certainly still up for debate, but honestly, this is encouraging to me overall. So I'm definitely looking a little bit more forward to this series than what I certainly was before. I do want to ask you, Stuart, with the reviews coming out the way that they are, have you read anywhere, or do you have an assumption maybe as to why you think they decided to release this all at once compared to weekly like we've been getting for such a long time? I mean, if the series is as good as it is, what do you make of the decision to drop it all at once?
I think there's two possibilities. The latter is probably the one they went with. Is probably the one that would make more sense, because I don't think Disney's the type that would do this first one. But this first one could be that because of the pacing of the show, it just works better to binge it all at once than if you were waiting for it weekly. And I kind of feel that way looking at the Daredevil shows. I feel like if I were to have watched the Daredevil show like on a weekly kind of basis instead of binging it like one episode a week, I don't know if I would have been as hooked on the show as because it's just not like structured like a show. Like every episode isn't really structured with like that ending that hooks you to the
Right.
point where you're like able to wait that week, but you also have all these questions that are building up during that week. It's just not structured like that. So I wonder if that's partially the reason, is that maybe Echo is structured the same way as Daredevil, so it just wouldn't make sense to have a week to week basis. Now the only reason I don't think that's the case is because Disney doesn't really tend to think about story reasons for things. For when it comes to marketing and story are two very separate things for Disney. So I think the more likely reason is that they're just experimenting with the idea, and because Echo's show, from what I hear, isn't the biggest budget of all the Marvel shows out there, it's the easiest show that they can experiment with and try something new without without taking like a huge loss or a huge win or anything like that.
Yeah, you might be onto something there. I do want to bring up Marcelino's comment. She says, Echo feels like Peacemaker, both of whom are so irrelevant in the comics. They're practically original characters in their adaptions. Let's just hope Echo will be just as good as Peacemaker. I think he brings up a good point in the sense that not many people know about Echo. Unless you're like a die-hard sort of comic book fan, this is very much a brand new character that people are getting an opportunity to explore for the very first time. So there is sort of a level of freedom that you have in taking liberties to really flesh out these characters. And based off of the Native American heritage that Echo has, along with Aliqua Cox, I do think that they hopefully will take advantage of that and really tell a very detailed past and origin story for her. And again, some of the comments did mention that they did a really good job of focusing on the heritage. And I think that kind of reminds me too of what they did with the Kamala Khan character from Miss Marvel, which I thought they handled beautifully. And it always works when you have a showrunner that's part of that same culture that understands that the character and that heritage that can really bring that even more to life. And I think for me, when it comes to Miss Marvel, I think that helped elevate the show. And so I'm really hoping that this helps elevate the Echo series as well, as long as the storytelling is there. So I think he's got a point. I do think it does allow them to have a little bit more freedom in their storytelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how the series goes, guys. Look, let me know your thoughts. Look, again, going into the MCU Echo series, I wasn't too fond of it. It didn't really grab my attention, but after seeing the trailer, after getting an opportunity to hear some of these reviews, it's kind of changing my mind a little bit. I'm a little bit more more ready to check out this series. So let me know your guys' thoughts. At the end of the day, these are just our A+ opinions, but we want to know yours. What's your level of anticipation for Echo now?
Something also kind of funny with Marcelino's comment, I just realized is so mentioning Peacemaker not being a big character in the comics, but I've kind of noticed, like, I don't keep up with comics that much, but I do go to my comic book store, especially the one near my work every now and then.
Yeah.
And he's been getting a lot more attention. Like, I've noticed that they've been starting to put him on the cover of a lot of Suicide Squad comic books. So I think that's just kind of like how it happens a lot of times, is especially with James Gunn, because it's happened also with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I noticed that, like, no one was talking about Guardians of the Galaxy before the movie came out, and now suddenly there's some of Marvel's like best-selling comic books out there.
Yeah, they've become very much more prominent. And it's like, yeah, if they can make them success when it comes to television series, why not start giving them bigger roles in the comic books themselves? I think we're definitely going to see more of that for sure.
Yeah, so if Echo does good, we'll definitely see more Echo comic books selling off the shelves.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic here. Again, this is going to stay in the realm of at least the comic book genre, as we get into more of a Sony / Marvel association collab. As when it comes to Spider-Man, you know, Phil, what is it, Lord and Miller, if you will, Lord and Miller really have taken the reins of the television world for Spider-Man. Outside of them working on the animated Spider-Man trilogy that we all know and love with Across the Spider-Verse, Sony has given them the reins to help develop upcoming Spider-Man television series. You know, we just talked about Silk Spider Society at the top in our honorable mentions, as the writing room has opened up for that again. But there is another Prime Video television series when it comes to Spider-Man that's being explored, and that is going to be the Spider-Man Noir series, most famously played by Nicolas Cage in the Across the Spider-Verse movie. I don't believe he popped back up in the second one, or in Across the Spider-Verse. He popped up in Into the Spider-Verse, but apparently they are planning a television series. I'm pretty intrigued by this one, Stuart, but it looks as though this series has officially found a co-showrunner, if you will. Let's go ahead and bring up this this article here, Stuart. This one actually comes to us from Variety.com. Saying that Spider-Man Noir series at Amazon enlists the Punisher, Steve Lightfoot, as the co-showrunner. This is an exclusive article from them as well. It just seems as though like these Punisher people are getting opportunities after opportunities. They must really have loved their work, which I personally love their work. I believe they might be attached. Somebody might be attached from Punisher over on Echo. But maybe I'm wrong in that regards. But let's learn a little bit more about this showrunner and his addition. So again, this comes to us from Variety. It says the Spider-Man Noir live action series in the works at Amazon has brought on Steve Lightfoot as co-showrunner. The show was first reported to be in the works at Amazon back in February. Oren Uzel is the writer on the project and will serve alongside Lightfoot as a co-showrunner and executive producer. As previously reported, the Untitled series will follow an older, grizzled superhero in 1930s New York City. An individual with knowledge of the project says that the show will be set in its own universe and the main character will not be Peter Parker. That still leaves me scratching my head, Stuart. But let's continue. It says this is not Lightfoot's first foray into the Marvel world. He previously developed and served as showrunner on The Punisher, which ran for 2 seasons before Netflix decided to pull back. Most recently, he created and served as showrunner on the Apple TV series Shantaram, based on the book of the same name, and he also was a part of Hannibal, Narcos, and Behind Her Eyes. It says Spider-Man Noir show is the second known project based on the Marvel characters at Amazon. It was previously announced that they were moving forward with the Silk Spider Society. It says Uzel, the writer, developed a show along with the producers Lord and Miller. So Lord and Miller very much hands-on when it comes to this Spider-Man Noir. Now, look, I will say this, Stuart. I am a little bit curious as to the decision of not having Peter Parker in this position. The idea of understanding that Lord and Miller are in control of this, that they have brought on a writer as well and are putting this together. I just got to think that at some point in time, there will be a Peter Parker connection here. If you tell me Spider-Man, I mean, look, there could be other Spider-Man for sure, but I am kind of curious if this is somebody that's taken up the mantle after Peter Parker's time, or maybe before Peter Parker's time. I think the idea also of them capitalizing on putting this in the 1930s, the idea of it being a period piece really works for me. I think the noir is really going to help separate this series from any other sort of Spider-Man content that we have, especially if they go the route of, I personally would not mind the idea of this being in black and white. I hope that the whole theme is like that to really put us certainly in that time period. But I gotta think at some point in time there's a Peter Parker connection. Even if the article does state it kind of takes place in its own universe. I mean, it's Spider-Man Noir here, and I just think Lord and Miller just do a really great job. They've already worked across the multiverse here, so I can definitely still see this, regardless of it being on its own universe or somebody else picking up the mantle or having the mantle. I can easily see this fitting into the overall canon of whatever Lord and Miller is working on. A little bit disappointed, or at least I'm under the impression Nicolas Cage will not be the main star in this. I do think somebody else will get that opportunity. So, while we're very familiar with the sound of Spider-Man Noir from Into the Spider-Verse, I definitely do think that we're going to get ourselves a completely different feel of a character. But I'm intrigued, man. I think when you bring on somebody like the Punisher co-showrunner, or the Punisher showrunner at the time, on board as a co-showrunner, I think it gives you a sense of the darkness, the grittiness, really sinking their teeth into that noir factor, and maybe not afraid to get a little bit violent in that regard. So this is a big win for me. I was a big fan of the first two seasons of The Punisher that we wind up getting, and if you're telling me he's going to help direct this ship, count me in, man. So I do think that Lord and Miller have something on their hands here, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But let me throw this your way, Stuart. You hear this, the Punisher showrunner being added as a co-showrunner in here. What does that do for your level of excitement, and what do you think you can expect?
Yeah, wow. So this is exactly what I wanted to see after watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I thought, oh man, how cool would it be to have Spider Noir, but like in his own show and actually played straight, maybe even make it live action. And here we go. We have a live action Spider Noir set in the 30s and 40s, with the showrunner from Punisher, meaning that this is probably going to be a very played straight, like actually taking itself seriously type of show.
Good point.
set in its own universe, which I like, so it doesn't have to worry about being dragged down by any continuity, especially because you're already going with a very, unique concept that isn't really tied to anything Marvel related. But um it was funny because when you said not having Peter Parker, immediately I had to look that up on Google because I was like wondering, wait a minute, his name wasn't Peter Parker, was it? And then
Was
looked it
it?
up, found and it was, yeah.
It was okay.
So that is kind of interesting. So it's not gonna. So I am wondering if, like you said, maybe this is a passing the mantle type of show, or if they just really didn't want the character's name to be Peter Parker because they were worried that us dumbass audiences wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a dude in the 30s, in a Spider Noir outfit, and Tom Holland. I guess they just thought we would get so confused and think that at one point Tom Holland was a detective, and for some reason they never brought that up in the MCU. But you know what? It is what it is. So it is weird that they're not going with the name Peter Parker, but that's totally fine. I have no attachment to the Spider Noir comic book, so I'm not going to rant too hard about it or anything like that. I just think this is a really fun idea, and depending on how it goes, if like the grounded aspect of it doesn't work well during its first season run, they have options. They could totally go multiverse with it in the second season, tie them into the whole Spider-Verse series, like you were saying. That's what's so great about this idea, is that they can play with some fun ideas, and whatever doesn't work, they have plenty of flexibility to try new things with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, the idea of really separating it from everything else does kind of allow you to play in your own sandbox. And if like you said, if it doesn't work out, you can always fall back on making it more multiversal. But I don't know why I get this vibe. Maybe just because of the time period in which it's set, but it almost reminds me of like and again, I don't know if this is going to be a passing of the torch sort of thing. I don't know if this is like establishing sort of this character before somebody like a Peter Parker comes along and picks up the mantle. But like when I think of it, I don't know why I go back to like old school JSA characters like an Alan Scott Green Lantern that eventually Hal Jordan will pick up the mantle, or what is it, Dan Garrett as the Blue Beetle before somebody like Ted Cord winds up picking up the mantle, sort of thing. It feels very very, what is it, golden age superhero, eventually passing it on to silver age or a golden age superhero sort of thing. So again, I don't know what they're playing at here, but I'm really intrigued, and I hope, like you mentioned, I hope they play it straight and then not be too over the top. So we'll see how it turns out, man. But Spider-Man Noir bringing on the Punisher as a showrunner, you got my attention even more, honestly. So big things to definitely look out for when it comes to Spider-Man television.
Something, because you brought up JSA, something I think would be kind of cool is, I'm not sure what characters they would be allowed to use, but if there were any characters that Marvel had that were around back then, like if they were allowed to use like the original Human Torch or Captain America, for example, I think it would be kind of cool to see like kind of the more traditional Golden Age superheroes teaming up with a character like Spider Noir, who's kind of like, in a way, especially with his dark, outfit, would be almost like the polar opposite of that. While they both fight for, overall a better world, they both have very different methods of going about it. And I think that the showrunners could have a lot of fun with that if they were allowed to.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there, man. I really do. Marcelino says Spider-Man Noir is a 20s, 30 version of Peter Parker. I think what the article meant is they won't include Prime Peter Parker. Possible. Again, I think it's important to state that, again, they just said that their sources stated that. So whether or not that's actual confirmation or not, we'll definitely have to see. I'm just going based off of what they mentioned. I mean, that's always a possibility, but I feel like if they say no Peter Parker, I think that's probably what they mean. But we'll see if that actually comes to fruition, or if that's just a grain of salt that people are talking about behind the scenes. But we'll definitely keep you posted, guys. But let us know your thoughts. Again, Silk Spider Society about to go ahead and get back into the writer's room. And now we've got Spider-Man Noir series with an update. We might be in for a good time to be a Spider-Man fan for sure.
Definitely.
All right, guys, with that topic out of the way, let's move over from some MCU Sony talk to diving into the DCU, Stuart. And I want to take this time, Stuart, with you to really talk about Superman Legacy, the upcoming James Gunn DCU film that will officially kick off the DCU movies, set to drop July of 2025. He continues to cast. This world continues to get bigger. While we were on hiatus for a few weeks, if not maybe a month and a half or so, there were a lot of news that wind up dropping, especially after the actor strike wind up finishing up, as we wind up getting more casting announcements. We're going to go over, as of right now, the entire cast for Superman Legacy. But before we get into that, Stuart, we had another casting this week. Whether or not this character shows up in Superman Legacy, who certainly knows? He clearly is going to have some impact in this particular world, maybe popping up in other projects. But James Gunn is not shy in introducing us to a lot of these actors and characters that will be populating the world. Make no mistake, James Gunn, from the very first onset, has mentioned the idea that we will be diving into a world that has these characters and these superheroes already established. This is not like an origin story of the beginning of the DCU. We are going to be thrust into the idea of Clark Kent already working at the Daily Planet, already Superman, and clearly he's got his fellow colleagues and other superheroes that populate this world. So very exciting for me personally, but Stuart, quite worrisome for some people. And this next announcement might have even worried people a little bit more. So let's go ahead and dive into this article, man. This comes to us from, I believe, deadline.com. Somebody else that James Gunn knows, Sean Gunn, his brother, has been cast to play villain Maxwell Lord in James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC universe. So say farewell to Pedro Pascal. He is clearly winning every other audition that he applies for. Probably didn't have enough time to come back as Maxwell Lord. But look, we all know James Gunn definitely has a new vision for this world. And Sean Gunn has landed the opportunity to go ahead and play Maxwell Lord. Let's go ahead and bring up this article here. Again, this is from Deadline. It says, exclusive. We understand that Guardians of the Galaxy alum Sean Gunn is set to take on the role of evil businessman Maxwell Lord in the DC universe that's being overseen by Peter Safran and James Gunn. The role was previously played by Pedro Pascal in the 2020 movie Wonder Woman 1984. It's not clear if James Gunn's Maxwell Lord will make a cameo in Superman Legacy, but which will go into production next year. The character, as I hear it, will be referenced in the background of Legacy, but will appear in future DC projects. A similar motif will occur for other characters in the new DC universe. The first phase, which is called Gods and Monsters Chapter 1. It does have some information. It says Maxwell Lord debuted in 1987's Justice League 1, which I believe might have been Justice League International, created by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire. He initially conceived as an amigo to the Justice League and the key to the formation of Justice League International. He ultimately became a foe to the organization and to Wonder Woman. While a wealthy businessman, during the Invasion crossover, he's gifted with superpowers when a gene bomb is exploded by alien invaders. The detonation triggers Lord's latent metagene, granting him the ability to control the minds of others, though with great challenges. So there's a potential that at some point in time, our Maxwell Lord in this world gets powers. But in the meantime, very much a wealthy businessman that's maybe playing a certain side or both sides from time to time. Look, I've just never trusted Maxwell Lord for certainly for very good reason. So it should be interesting to see his role in here. So Stuart, first initial thoughts, man. Sean Gunn playing Maxwell Lord. How do you like the role choice here for him? Any ideas to the role that you would like to maybe see Maxwell Lord, and just your initial thoughts, man?
Initial thoughts, very, very surprising. So yeah, like James Gunn, clearly it's not that he doesn't think his brother is talented, but like in the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies, it's kind of clear that he gave him like a very safe role, like a role that
Mm-hmm.
that he did a great job with. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm shitting on his performance. He didn't do a bad job. Actually, he had two roles in Guardians of the Galaxy, both of which he does a great job at. One, of course, as a Yondu's friend, whose name I unfortunately have forgotten. But the other one is that he does the motion
Craggle or
capture.
something? Craggle?
Straggle?
Craggle?
Craggle? Was it
Or
Craggle? Yeah.
Criggle? I don't remember the hell's okay. I don't remember his
Something
name.
weird, but he does
Yeah.
a great job at it. And then he also does an amazing job doing the motion capture for Rocket Raccoon, given the fact that he had to be like on his knees the entire time. Like, yeah, that takes some skill. So definitely not knocking this guy's acting, but I am also saying that like in his roles in Guardians of the Galaxy were definitely ones that were kind of safe. So even if he did a bad role, it wouldn't have ruined the movie. I don't think it wasn't like his role really held the movie together. That being said, though, Maxwell Lord is a huge role, like a very important role, I think, when it comes to the overall shape of the DC universe. So to see James Gunn trusting his brother with a big role like that, and knowing that James Gunn isn't the kind of person that's going to give a role to someone just because he's friends with them, he's very smart about knowing what roles to give what people, even if he's like really close with them. So I think that yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what aspect of Maxwell Lord plays into this. As much as I like Pedro Pascal as an actor, I just didn't think the role he was given as Maxwell Lord either. I don't think it played to his strengths as an actor, and I don't think it made any sense to Maxwell Lord as a character because it just was nothing like Maxwell Lord from the comic books. So I look forward to seeing James Gunn's version of this character, and I look forward to seeing how Sean Gunn plays him when he's brought to the screen. I think yeah, if Sean Gunn's being given the role, and if James Gunn sees like this much potential in his brother, I think we're in for some really awesome movies. I really hope we get to see him in the, if not in Superman Legacy, at least in Justice League, because there's some very specific moments he's had with the Justice League that I would love to see get recreated in a Justice League movie.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It is one of those things like when they announced him as Maxwell Lord, I was like, huh, that's an interesting choice of roles for Sean Gunn based off of kind of what we've seen. So, I don't know if this is sort of like a step above those characters from the past in a sense of like, hey, you're really gonna have to put forth some really great acting in here. Not to say that he's been bad in the other things, but I just feel like Maxwell Lord is certainly on a different level than the other characters that he's had to portray before. So we may actually get some serious grounded moments here of Sean Gunn playing a character more straight than we're probably are used to seeing him in this role. But I think it's intriguing. I think the addition of Maxwell Lord in here, when we already have somebody like a Lex Luthor, does open up this world. It makes me wonder, like, what his role is going to be in the overall DCU. Is he going to be the person that winds up helping put together the Justice League, if you will? I just don't know why, Stuart. But looking at just the cast of names and the characters that have been released so far to us, and now you add Maxwell Lord. I am kind of curious, like, are we putting together the Justice League of America, or are we putting together a Justice League International team? And there's just something about what James Gunn is establishing kind of in this world when you have figures like the Authority already kind of established. It makes me wonder what a role like a Justice League team would play in this world. And it does make me wonder if, Maxwell Lord is behind the scenes, trying to put together a team that will face off against somebody like the Authority, or establish something else in regards to a more of an international team for this DC world. I don't know, but I do think that there's plenty of opportunity and great storytelling, whether that be Maxwell Lord's connection with the Justice League, as the article mentioned, him eventually getting powers at some point in time. We, for those of you who follow the comics, there's a very infamous Wonder Woman and Maxwell Lord sort of showdown moment where she literally breaks this man's neck and kills him. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, if I can see James Gunn sort of tapping into anything raw when it comes to DC Comics that hasn't been explored, that's some shit I could easily see James Gunn trying to tackle and maneuver to certainly make happen at some point. So I do think Maxwell Lord will have a pretty interesting addition here. Again, I don't necessarily know if Sean Gunn would have been my first choice, but I do find it intriguing, and I think that just shows that James Gunn believes that his brother can certainly do it. And when we have somebody like a Nicholas Hoult already playing a Lex Luthor, now we've got Sean Gunn opposite as Maxwell Lord. So we'll see how it's how they pull it off. But I would agree with you, Stuart. I think when it comes to just what they were able to do with the Maxwell Lord character in Wonder Woman 1984. Certainly a different vision and a completely different sort of theme and tone. Certainly played a little bit more over the top. I don't know if I'm expecting that version of Maxwell Lord in here, but maybe Sean Gunn can do his best wealthy businessman impression like no other. Maybe that's what's gotten him this job opportunity. But overall, you pleased with the casting?
Yeah. I think he's going to do great. I think, like I said, James Gunn wouldn't have cast his brother if he didn't think he could handle it. So I'm looking forward to it. But Adam, I have a question.
What's up, man?
Don't you wish he could have played Maxwell Lord in the other Wonder Woman movie? Don't you wish that, Adam?
No, I don't. Was that your Pedro Pascal impression of?
That was my
Maxwell?
Pedro Pascal Maxwell Lord impression. Not Pedro Pascal specifically what he did with Maxwell Lord. Because just with how weird he went with that. Don't you wish?
Yeah, totally. Very over the top, man. He really bought into the character for sure. But now that we have the casting of Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord, it does open up the rest of the DCEU world that James Gunn is building. So I want to go ahead and pull up another photo here that really gives us an idea as to everybody that has officially been announced so far. Some of these characters announced for Superman Legacy, others like Maxwell Lord, who Maxwell Lord's not even on this list, so that makes number 11 here. I do think it's important that the Deadline article did mention the idea that he may not be in Superman Legacy, or he may just simply be sort of referenced in the background. And Stuart, I'm kind of under the impression that I think a lot of these characters may just be referenced in the background, or very brief cameos that take up maybe 5 to 10 minutes of a particular movie, where the rest of the movie is mostly Superman's story that's definitely being told. But there are instances here of some level of ensemble cast that James Gunn certainly has to tackle. But I'm necessarily not under the impression that it's going to take away from Superman. Not to downplay anybody's concern, because I know that is a concern for many, but I do think it's important that we go over the casting and the announcements once again of everybody that's a part of this particular world right now. So starting off, we're going to start off from the left to the right. So first off, of course, our new Man of Steel. We got David Corenswet as Superman himself. He was the first one to certainly be announced, followed by Rachel Brosnahan, most notably known for her time in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's been cast as Lois Lane. And then outside of that, you really start wondering, who else is Clark Kent going to be bouncing off of? Who are the other protagonists and antagonists in this show? We have our Lex Luthor. That's officially going to be played by Nicholas Hoult. This man's been trying to get into a superhero movie for the longest time after his time in X-Men. I think he went out for the role as Batman. I think he even went out for the role for Superman, but he wound up getting the role here for Lex Luthor. So kudos to him. Definitely going the younger route for our Lex Luthor. And then, of course, Clark's best buddy in Jimmy Olsen, who's being played none other by Skylar Gisondo, who I think, honestly, Stuart, I don't even know what else this guy has been in, but just look-wise, best casting I've ever seen. What do you think?
Yeah. You know what's so funny? Before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, my casting for Jimmy Olsen was actually the actor that played Adam Warlock. And now I see him as
Oh,
Adam Warlock, and I'm like, ooh, I don't think I could see him do Jimmy anymore.
yeah, I don't blame you. But Skylar Gazondo is going to be playing Jimmy Olsen. And I am fascinated by the fact that James Gunn is including this character in this world. It immediately takes me back to the classic Superman with Gene Hackman and his Miss Tessmacher, or I should say, Miss Tessmacher. Um, as she is in fact being played by, I believe it's damn it, Sarah Sampaio, if I'm pronouncing her name right. Sarah Sampaio is going to be playing Miss Tessmacher. So those are the first 5 that you see here on the board that are going to be sort of the human elements, if you will, of Superman Legacy. So I expect to see these 5 characters, Stuart, mostly in this movie more than anybody else. From
Same.
there, though, so you do agree with that, Stuart?
Yeah, I think because the first 5 are, directly Superman characters, and I think the other 5, not only because of who the other 5 characters are, but also because for one in particular who he casted, which is Nathan Fillion. James Gunn seems to really love having Nathan Fillion roles be basically cameos.
Mhm.
And so I think because of that, it's safe to say that with these roles, I think they're also going to be like, maybe not all like just cameos, but I don't think they're going to be like huge like roles in the movie. I think they're going to be important, but I don't think they're going to take away like from what you said. I don't think they're going to take away from Superman, because if they did, if they took away enough for it to be like kind of a superhero movie with multiple characters, I'm pretty sure James Gunn would have just called the movie Justice League at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be right. Quick shout out though goes to Blossom with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Blossom, for certainly coming through. She says, so many cast choices. I mean, holy macaroni manoli. Yeah, the casting choice is pretty large. And I don't know, Stuart. I don't even know if he's done. I really don't know if he's done. This
Well, I heard a rumor that apparently Supergirl's also going to have a small role in it. A
I
rumor,
did
though,
hear that.
not, yeah, that's why I didn't bring it into my honorable mentions, because I haven't heard it from like an actual source yet.
Yeah, I have heard a rumor that Supergirl may pop up in here, and the fact that she may not be Sasha Kaye after all, which is interesting to me because they are taking the same writer of the previous Supergirl movie that was set to star Sasha Kaye, and they're bringing her over to do this new Woman of Tomorrow movie for Supergirl, but the idea of no Sasha Kaye. So a little bit bummed there if that does turn out to be true. But yeah, there is a rumor out there that Supergirl could be added to this list. So Blossom, the casting may not be done. And
Mm,
again, I do want to make it important that even if we do get future casting, those casting choices may not necessarily be for Superman Legacy, but maybe upcoming other movies as well. But yes, Blossom, for many, this cast may be a little bit too big. But that's just the first 5. That's just the first 5 that we're talking about. Let's get into sort of the actual heroes / villains that we certainly might see. Again, we just announced Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord, but we also have the actor in Eddie Gathegi, who will be playing Mr. Terrific, as you can see here as well. And Stuart, this past week, a photo of Eddie wind up
wow.
dropping, showcasing that this man is in the gym. He is taking this role of Mr. Terrific seriously, and he's looking terrific himself. But he is definitely taking this casting very seriously, as we have our Mr. Terrific getting pumped in the gym for his potential role here in Superman Legacy.
Can't wait to see what he looks like with a skin tight leather jacket on.
Yeah, man. Especially, I would assume they're still going to go with the makeup on his face with the giant T. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that looks. I will skip over real quick the Authority chick. I want to go back to the more DC characters, but we do have Nathan Fillion, as you guys can see there, playing one of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I was saying one of the Guardians, one of the excuse me, one of the Green Lantern Corps members as Guy Guardian. There's just way too many G's in that statement. I apologize. After that, we've got Isabella Merced, who is going to be playing Hawk Girl, which, mind you, Isabella Merced, we'll actually see her in another movie before this, as she will be in the Madam Web movie. the Sony and Marvel collaboration film. So Isabel Merced will be playing Hawkgirl. And then we also have Anthony Carrigan at the very end of this list playing Metamorpho, which I think is probably maybe my second favorite casting choice of this. If I'm just going based off of like looks for the character, Metamorpho is one of those characters that I have always been intrigued to see what he would look like in live action. I don't know if they've ever done him in live action in like another series or something. Like he never popped up in like Smallville. Do you recall or anything like that, Stuart?
No, I don't think he's definitely never been in the Arrowverse, and I don't
Okay.
think he was ever in Smallville.
Okay, so this might be the opportunity that we actually see him. We've seen him plenty in animated series, so the fact that they're going to try and do this guy live action, I think, is a home run immediately from a creative decision for James Gunn to bring him on board. And then, last but not least, the silver lady that you see in the middle. Her name is the Engineer. She's being played by actress Maria Gabriela de Faria. She's going to be the Engineer, which is a member of the Authority. I believe that in some of the articles that we've read, they've referred to her as the villain. I don't know if she is the main villain for Superman Legacy or just a prominent figure that will have some impact, but she will in fact be a member of the Authority at some particular point in time. So
Ooh,
that's our cast.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was trying to like kill Lex Luthor. So she wasn't like the main villain, but she was interfering with the main villain in her own way, in a way that, Superman's not okay with.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely a possibility for sure, man. I will be intrigued to see how this plays out, but great stuff, man. Great stuff in regards to what this Superman Legacy cast is certainly looking like. Let us know some of your thoughts in the comment section box below. Is there anybody in particular that really jumps out at you that you definitely want to go ahead and talk a little bit about? So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Yeah, are you worried, Stuart?
No, I mean, I would be lying if I said a part of me wasn't a bit concerned, because yes, that is a lot of cast members, and part of me just has to ask the question: was this really James Gunn's decision, or was it David Zaslav saying, "Hey, we need to sell people on this new DC universe immediately. Fit as many superheroes in there as you possibly can." But in the past, though, James Gunn has been extremely talented when it comes to working with, studio executive orders. Like you look at Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for example, it's so clear a lot of the decisions weren't his, but were Disney's, but he knows how to use those decisions in his favor. So even if it is the case that David Zaslav or, someone at Warner Brothers was like, hey, you need to put as many superheroes in this as possible, I see James Gunn being the kind of person to make that work and still make it feel like it's a Superman movie. But yeah, I definitely do agree with you when you were mentioning that you can see why people are concerned about this. I definitely would agree with that. Like, if you're concerned by the amount of characters, definitely makes sense. I just recommend, at least waiting until you see the movie before, judging, about it not being a real Superman movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at a lot of his past movies, there are big ensemble casts. I think he's done a great job of being able to balance them out, give everybody their own opportunities to really shine, sort of thing. So I'm not worried. Like I honestly see like there being a 5 to 10 minute scene of maybe a lot of these superheroes gathered already someplace, and Superman pops on in and he needs to get an update, or he needs Mr. Terrific's help in regards to solving something, right? I mean, that's a good little 3 to 5 minute scene that you can have, and then boom, that's the end of them, right? But used to help get a purpose to help Superman move on to the next plot or the next moment in the film, sort of thing. I think it could be really fun, and who knows, maybe just saving some people together. I don't know. I just think I think he's smart about how he wants to handle these things. So I trust him in regards to how he's handling it, but we'll see what the final product is going to be. Shout out real quick to my son coming through, Noah Daniel Perez. At first I was like, who the hell is that? Like, who hacked my, like, did somebody come up with a YouTube channel for my son that I don't know about? And then I remembered, oh yeah, we do have an account for him already, and then followed quickly by my girlfriend from her account. So I was like, okay, it's her. So babe, if you are still watching, I hope you liked it, our video from both accounts, to help us out a little bit there. So thank you, babe, for certainly coming through. Marcelino does say, I'm hoping Lex Luthor isn't the main villain. I would rather see lesser known Superman villains be used as main villains instead. I think Lex Luthor has been overdone like the Joker. And I would agree with you. I think Lex Luthor probably isn't the main villain in here, but it wouldn't surprise me, Stuart, if we see him being maybe the one that's pulling the strings behind the scenes that we don't really know until maybe the end of the movie, sort of thing. Maybe he's building up a bigger plot where he does eventually become sort of the main villain. Again, I don't know if the engineer is truly going to be the main villain in here or not, but if she was, I would say that that's a breath of fresh air, personally, in regards to some of his Superman's rogues gallery that we haven't quite seen yet. I would like the idea of him going outside of the box, making maybe the engineer a pretty significant threat, before, or who knows, maybe there's somebody else bigger behind all of that too. But do you think the engineer will be the main villain, or you think that's still yet to be revealed?
I think it's still yet to be revealed. I personally don't think it's going to be Lex Luthor as the main villain either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I want to say Brainiac, but I could also see James Gunn wanting to wait a little bit for Brainiac, wanting to wait until, a sequel comes out. But that's kind of who I'm personally hoping for.
Marceline is saying in the comics she's actually a hero, and yes, in the Superman, she and is not a Superman character. She is a member of the Authority. Yes, she is a member of the Authority. I am curious. Wasn't there a Superman book where he faces the Authority, or maybe he joins the Authority? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not one that I've certainly read, but I do wonder if they have interacted before in the comics. But yeah, I think initially she is a hero in the comics. So, I do wonder what level of a threat she certainly plays, or her role in general. So I think there's a lot more to definitely be explained, Marcelino, there. I'm just going based off of what I've read so far. But we'll see, man. We'll see. But I think the casting announcements are coming along just great. It's building up my level of excitement. And considering the fact that we're not going to have any DCEU movie until 2025, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm hoping that does bring some intriguing eyes to this new DCU that they're building.
Yeah, but we will have Creature Commando.
Yes, that's right. We will have Creature Commandos dropping sometime next year. I don't believe they've given the Waller series a release date, or if that's something that they're still going forward with, but we'll definitely keep you posted. Marcelino says, my personal theory is that she starts out as a villain but becomes a hero in the future after being helped by Superman. That's definitely a possibility as well.
Definitely.
All right, Stuart. Let's go ahead and tackle our next topic here. We're going to get a little bit more into your traditional movies and television shows that we're going to be talking about. This one's probably more a movie run for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. Look, video game movies are certainly making a comeback, whether that be Sonic movies or whatever the case may be. From movie, I'll even put Uncharted on that list. Didn't blow me away, but a solid entry, if you will. But video game movies are certainly coming towards us faster than we can certainly expect, especially after the huge success of the Super Mario Brothers. Nintendo very much has looked at that accomplishment and certainly feels a little bit safer in regards to now putting a lot more of their IPs into bigger positions, whether that be television series or movies. And I think one of the very highly anticipated Nintendo video games that people have been wanting to see a live action version of for the longest time is none other than The Legend of Zelda. There's been a lot of talk and speculation as to whether or not it was going to happen, and it certainly is happening. It has a director that's officially attached to it as well. It's just really going to be the idea of what the vision of a live action Legend of Zelda is going to be like. And Stuart, this week, the director of The Legend of Zelda actually came out and gave us an idea as to what he's really going to be aiming for. And honestly, Stuart, after hearing it, I cannot be more excited, honestly. When I envision it, I can clearly see it in my head. Whether you can execute it in live action will be another story. But let's go ahead and dive into this. This is from Entertainment Weekly. It says the Legend of Zelda director is aiming for a live action Miyazaki film. And for those of you who know anything about Miyazaki films, he actually does have one currently in theaters right now. I actually just read a report. I think it's The Son of Heron, I believe is the name of it. I believe it is currently number one at the box office here in the US, believe it or not. So it's actually doing some really big numbers. But let's hear what the Legend of Zelda director certainly had to say. It says the Maze Runner franchise director Wes Ball is a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda and a major admirer of the animated movies by legendary Spirited Away filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki. Ball tells EW that he hopes both these passions will be evident in his planning adaptation of the beloved Nintendo video game series. He says Ball describes his vision as this awesome fantasy adventure movie that isn't like Lord of the Rings. It's his own thing. I've always said I would love to see a live action Miyazaki. That wonder and whimsy that he brings to things, I would love to see something like that. It says Nintendo announced in November that they're developing a live action Legend of the Zelda film centered on the sword wielding character Link. Nintendo and Sony are co producing the movie, with Derek Connolly from Jurassic World writing the screenplay and Wes Ball both directing and producing. It says it's going to be awesome. West Ball promises. My whole life has led up to this moment. I grew up on Zelda, and it is the most important property, I think, that's untapped IP, if you will. So we very much are working hard to do something. We're not just trying to do it because we can. We want to make something really special. And then he goes on. I think it looks like they were speaking with him in New Zealand, where he's currently overseeing post production on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So he was attached to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as well. So he's got another movie. So if you want to see what Wes Ball is capable of outside of Maze Runner, keep an eye on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. He says the director hopes to shoot the video game adaptation after he's finished with the current monkey business. See what they did there? He says, we're working on the script, and whether it's the next one or not, it's hard to say exactly. But certainly the plan is after Apes is done to have a little bit of a rest for a moment and then dive into Zelda and hopefully give fans what they're hoping for and also invite new people in. I think Nintendo's desire is to introduce people to this world that's been around for 40 years now. Yeah, man, big words coming from Wes Ball here. And Stuart, I love his vision for this. I truly love his vision for this. I think when um I think he makes a great point in here when he says that Legend of Zelda is one of those properties that is still kind of untapped potential. Sometimes we see these IP and franchises just rebooted and redone over and over and over again. But what they've done with Nintendo in the sense of just holding tight onto these IPs, right? Being very particular about what they're creating, who's going to have, the liberties to create their vision, who's the writer, who's director. Nintendo's been very tight of keeping those properties very close to their chest, very much protective. But now that we've seen the success of Super Mario Brothers, it does feel like the floodgates are open, or at least the idea that Nintendo is much more open to the idea of like, all right, let's finally give this thing a shot. I am expecting more announcements eventually from Nintendo in regards to other IP that's untapped. But for characters that have been around for such a long time, Stuart, it truly is untapped potential in the sense of we really have not seen a lot of these characters on the big screen, in live action, in television series whatsoever. So if there is IP out there that people are really salivating to get their hands on to hopefully make a success, it's probably anything Nintendo related as of right now, especially when you see things like series like The Last of Us doing extremely well. You've got the God of War series that's also coming to Amazon Prime at some point in time too, right? They're really sinking their teeth into the video game IP, and this is probably as any time is better than any other time to go ahead and really tackle some of these properties. So I'm loving everything that Wes Ball is saying here. I am intrigued. We just recorded, Stuart and I, we literally just recorded our most anticipated movies of 2024. And for me, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I think came in at either number 2 or number 3 for me. So it's really high up there. I'm really ready to go ahead and revisit that world. And with Wes Ball involved, I'm even more intrigued now to kind of see what his vision is for that franchise, and just to see what elements of that he could potentially bring back. I mean, Stuart, I'm not even gonna lie. Like the first, now that I think about it, when I think about the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes trailer, just that beautiful shot of like the falcon, flying through the air, all catching the wind, all whimsical like, and then coming and landing on the arm of the ape. That ape could easily be Link at any point in time, and I would just be engulfed in this world immediately. Like, that is the most beautiful shot I've ever seen, sort of thing. So the way that he's talking in regards to wanting this to relate to a Miyazaki sort of film, I can easily see that being what a Legend of Zelda movie looks like. More like that and less like Lord of the Rings. Not that anything's wrong with Lord of the Rings, but when I think of like Spirited Away, it is that wonder and that whimsical aspect that Bell talks about, that I'm like, that's totally a Zelda series for sure. So I'm fascinated. He has piqued my interest. I was already looking forward to this for the longest time. I think if you're a video game fan, you want a Zelda film. And he's saying all the right things, if you ask me, Stuart. But maybe this hits you differently. What are you taking away from anything that Ball has said or this article states?
Uh, Honestly, yeah, it seems like this guy has a great idea going for him. Live action Miyazaki would work perfectly for a live action Legend of Zelda Zelda franchise. It sounds like this guy is very passionate about the franchise, and he has a very specific vision that I think is going to work really well. The only thing is, I haven't seen any of his movies, I don't think, because you said he did Maze Runner as well, right?
Yes. I have seen the first Maze Runner, which I thought was a really good film. I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen the other two. I think I might have attempted to watch the second one. I think the other one might be kind of disappointing, but
Okay.
the first one out the gate, I thought was pretty strong.
Awesome. But yeah, looking at his Planet of the Apes trailers, the new one that's coming out, it looks like it's going to be a great movie. So I can't wait to see that. And yeah, I think when I see that movie, I'll have a better idea of whether or not I think this guy can live up to the hype that he's kind of creating in that interview. When talking about his vision, he's saying all the right things. It seems like he has a great idea, but whether or not he's able to execute it the way he's talking about it is a very different question. So I'll have like a stronger idea of how I'm going to feel about this after I see, of course, the newest Planet of the Apes, which again looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's also not the writer of the film for Zelda, so it also it's going to be dependent on what their collaboration is like, what the main story is certainly going to be. So definitely a lot more potential there as well. Another super chat from Blossom just coming through with the support today. Thank you so much, Blossom. She says, "Zelda, holy macaroni! Been meaning to play that." Look, there's a lot of Zelda out
Oh
there.
yeah.
There's a lot of. Do you have a favorite Zelda, Stuart?
Ooh, this is going to be the super obvious one, but just because of pure nostalgia, I really liked Ocarina of Time. And then, of course, I really liked Twilight Princess and Link's Awakening on the Game Boy Pocket.
Oh,
That
nice.
one, oh my God, I used to play that one all the time. But I guess like the one that's really good for newcomers is the two that came out on the Switch. Very different
Mm.
from the other Zelda games because it's a lot more open world, but still a lot of fun. Just the big thing is like in the order in which you play the game is kind of like all up to you, whereas like other Zelda games had somewhat of a linear kind of way to progress. But this one in particular, it's pretty much like you're thrown into this world, do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think for me, some of my favorites, I immediately grew up playing the original Legend of Zelda game on the NES. I tackled a little bit the Adventure of Link 2 from Zelda 2. I think that was Super Nintendo, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe A Link to the Past was Super Nintendo. I can't remember off the top of my head. But outside of that, yeah, Ocarina of Time was one of my favorites growing up on the 64. I don't think I played much of Majora's Mask. But after that, I think what was that Zelda? Was it Wind Chaser? Wind Chase. I can't remember. Was it
Oh, Windbreaker.
Windbreaker, yes. When
Yeah.
you're like sailing the seas and stuff, I was a big fan of the story and the art style of that. There's a lot to I think Blossom. If there's any game that I would recommend for you specifically, knowing the style and the flavor of like the stuff that you watch and read, I think Windbreaker would be a great one for you to dive on board. So yeah, if you want a suggestion at least, but thank you again for the great super chat. We really appreciate your support. Ram Jam says, which link are we getting in the Zelda movie? Are we getting excuse me, Princess Link, or the link that doesn't talk?
I assume a Link that talks, but not the excuse me, princess.
Yeah, I hope not either.
Oh god, and hopefully not the CDI Zelda Link either. Oh boy, I'm still hungry. I could eat an Octorok.
I am curious how they will handle Link. Like, could you have a Link that just does not talk in the entirety of the movie? Or I would be interested to kind of see how they pull that off.
The most proper way I think to do a character like Link is to do the character that a lot of critics hate, which is the ones without personalities. Because the whole point of Link is that he's really like meant to be an insert character. There's a reason Link never talks in the games, is because you're supposed to like kind of imagine, what would you say, how would you react in these situations. You're supposed to like basically kind of put yourself in Link's shoes. So technically the best way to make a Link character is to just go as generic as you possibly can.
I was gonna say, like, I wonder if he would be like a mute, in this. Like, he just does not have the ability to talk, but you're asking an actor to come in that can be very expressive in his actions and the way that he moves to kind of convey what he's asking for, sort of thing. I would be interested to see if they pull off something like that. And just to clarify real quick, for Blossom, because I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head, but I did go ahead and look it up. It's not the Son of Heron. It's actually called The Boy and the Heron. And again, that is the most recent Miyazaki movie. If you guys want to go ahead and check it out, it is currently out in movie theaters to get a sense of, what Wes Ball is referring to, or if you want to go back to the most notable classic of his, Spirited Away. I mean, but this guy, I feel like he just doesn't miss from time to time. But definitely check out some Miyazaki's films. Blossom says Miyazaki's film rocks. Spirited Away is awesome. Kiki's Delivery Service is my personal favorite from him. So yeah, that's what Wes Ball is certainly going for when it comes to Legend of Zelda. But saying it and executing it, like Stuart said, is a completely different thing. So we'll see if that gets brought to life. And also Melissa Benoist loves bacon. What's up, AJ? Good to see you in here. He says, "What's up? Just checking in. Appreciate you coming through, man." All right, Stuart. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next topic, shall we? And this one is right up your alley because look, man, Kevin Smith is back at it. Don't matter how old this man gets, he continues to jump back on board of these franchises and these stories that have really made Kevin Smith, and has given us some very pop culture characters that will live on in infamy. One of those, or a duo of those characters, being none other than Jay and Silent Bob. That's right. Now, look, Kevin Smith has completed, if you will, his Clerks franchise. We wind up getting ourselves a trilogy of Clerks films, which unfortunately, Clerks 3, I just don't think was promoted well enough. I don't know how many theaters it wind up getting into. I completely missed it in theaters. It was like here one day, gone in like a week. But Clerks 3 is out there if you guys want to try and find it and finish it off. But apparently, according to Kevin Smith, he's not done with Jay and Silent Bob. So let's go ahead and dive into this because they are back in the news. I think this article comes to us from, I don't think I've ever been to this website, popculture.com. It says Kevin Smith reveals he's writing a new Jay and Silent Bob movie. And this is going to be an exclusive here. It says Kevin Smith will be bringing back the fictional duo Jay and Silent Bob for another movie. They exclusively spoke with the 53-year-old director. Oops, where am I thinking? Hold on one moment, guys. I'm sorry. I got a weird Antivirus, antivirus. Okay, so it says right now as we speak, this is what he's saying. Right now as we speak, I'm writing another Jay and Silent Bob movie. He says, for me and Jay, we always kind of have fun doing those and stuff. So I lost a bet with him. And so I'm writing another Jay and Bob movie. Smith is referring to Jason Mewes, who plays Jay in the movies. The duo first appeared in the 1994 film's Clerk, which Smith's directorial debut. From there, Jay and Silent Bob have starred in Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Clerks 3, and of course, Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie, as well as, Jesus, Jay and Silent Bob's reboot. The characters have also appeared in multiple television shows, comic book movies, and music videos. They really are like pop culture icons at this point, Stuart. Like if people just don't know them by seeing them, then something's clearly wrong.
I forgot. Did you read? Was Scream 3 one of the things that you read?
No, Clerks 3, I believe.
No, Scream 3. They had a cameo in Scream 3 that no one talks
Oh,
about.
yeah, I
But
don't
they
even
were
see them on the
definitely
list.
they were definitely playing Jay and Silent Bob in Scream
Wow.
3.
Wow.
And in fact, because it's in Hollywood, you could arguably say that scene took place during Jay and Silent Bob.
See, this is why I have you on the show, Stuart, because you're the man that knows all this stuff about Jay and Silent Bob. But yeah, it seems according to him, he says he is writing another Jay and Silent Bob movie. Clearly, he says he's writing it because he lost a bet to Jason Mewes. So it makes me wonder, like, did he have a story in mind? It feels like maybe he had a story in mind, but he was like, I don't know, maybe lost the bet, and he's like, damn, now I really have to write this freaking movie. But regardless, Stuart, I am kind of curious. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Oh, forgot to hit unmute. So, from what I had heard, this is when I went to the premiere of Clerks 3. Kevin Smith did his usual Q&A. He said that he did want to write a third Jay and Silent Bob movie, but he wanted to wait exactly 10 years from when Jay and Silent Bob reboot came out. So I wasn't expecting to see this movie until 2029. But he said he wanted to specifically wait for Jason Mewes' daughter to get a little bit older, to be like I think he said until his daughter was like 14, basically in her teens, because he wanted her daughter to play he wanted Jason Mewes' daughter to play Jay's kid's daughter. So in other words, she would have been Jay's granddaughter in the third Jay and Silent Bob movie, and it would have involved a road trip of some sort, just like the other Jay and Silent Bob movies. So seeing that is coming out sooner, I think we could still have this same kind of plot if that's the direction they decide to go with. Just have Jay's granddaughter be a little younger. The other thing I'd be so curious to know too, because recently, I don't know if you heard of this, but Kevin Smith actually had stopped smoking weed a while ago, about 4 or 5 months ago. Okay. And given that, when he became vegan, Silent Bob in the movies became vegan, I'm kind of curious if that's going to play out too. If suddenly, now that Kevin Smith doesn't smoke weed, suddenly we're going to see Silent Bob not smoking weed anymore.
Yo, I personally would really love to see that. I mean, with this man in his 50s right now, I got to assume Jay and Silent Bob are also in their 50s. I love look, Kevin Smith, I think, does a great job, especially now that we follow these same characters for such a long period of time, right? I mean, you just look at Clerks and seeing them when they first started off working in the grocery store, right? And when you get to the second one, they're like in their mid to late 30s sort of thing, really in that pivotal time of like the direction of where your life has got to go and your connection to your friends and stuff. And then now with them in like their 50s, I didn't have the opportunity to check out Clerks 3, Stuart, but did they tackle the idea of those characters now in like their older ages?
They didn't go into depth with them. I'd say, if anything, Jay and Silent Bob reboot was the one to really tackle that with those two characters. But yeah, I'd say that in the case of Clerks 3, from what we see, they definitely have a healthier lifestyle than they had, in Jay and Silent Bob, the first movie, when their main thing was just selling weed in front of a convenience store.
Yeah, so I'm really intrigued in this, man. I've seen the first one, but after that, unfortunately, nail me to across, guys. I'm sorry. I have not seen the other Jay and Silent Bob movies. I did want to see the reboot just because Melissa Benoist was in that one also, who played Supergirl. But you know, I may check this one out. I may have to do a little bit of a Jay and Silent Bob marathon. I just personally didn't even realize they were in so much other content. Like just going down that list just blows my mind.
Yeah. Man, yeah, like I think like of all of them, the one that I always recommend to people, even if they're not Kevin Smith fans, definitely Dogma would probably
I
be
love
one of my
Dogma.
favorites. Yes.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think that if you do end up watching Jay and Silent Bob reboot and Clerks 3, it would be a fun idea to do it as a double feature.
Okay.
Because they came out like only a couple years apart, and you know, Clerks 3 very closely follows the events of Jay and Silent Bob
Mhm.
reboot, because a lot of things that were established in that are brought up again in Clerks 3. So
Oh,
it,
okay.
it makes for a good double feature.
Okay, I might have to check that out then for sure. Because I missed out on Clerks 3. It just came and went in and out of movie theaters so quickly. So I may end up doing that because I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I love how he writes his characters. I've grown attached to a lot of the characters he's established in these movies. So I'm here for it, man. So yeah, always cool to kind of see Jay and Silent Bob evolve in some way. This one shouldn't be a disappointment either. But let us know, guys. Again, these are just our A+ opinions. What do you think about the idea of Kevin Smith tackling another Jay and Silent Bob movie? Are you here for it? Are you done with these characters? Definitely go ahead and certainly let me know. And of course, yeah, Melissa Benoist comments. Melissa Benoist was in it. Yes, appreciate the heads up.
She was also in Clerks 3. Both very brief cameos though.
Same character.
No, I think in Clerks 3 I think she's technically just credited as random actress,
Oh,
because
okay.
she's like the joke is
Just like
she's
cameo.
auditioning for
Oh,
Randall's movie.
okay, okay. Yeah, I'll definitely want to check that one out. All right, guys. And last but not least, we got one last topic before we get into your guys' live viewer questions. We're going to get back to the world of movies. As we have a movie that's coming out, I think, before the end of the year. Good old Timothee Chalamet is back in the news, discussing the upcoming Wonka film. I honestly feel like when it comes to the Wonka movie, the more and more I see of it, I continue to get really intrigued. I don't think there's anything that I've seen from this, with the exception of maybe the design of the Oompa Loompas. Other than that, I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. But Timothy Chalamet is certainly in the news here this week, really pointing out the idea like, look, guys, I know how we feel about remakes and reboots and continuing these IPs, but this is why I certainly joined on board. And I thought this was pretty telling, not only of Timothy Chalamet as a actor in regards to how he decides things, but I think also an eye opener in regards to what the Wonka movie may give us, that some of us may not necessarily be expecting. So let's go ahead and dive into this one, Stuart, as well. Because I think this is going to be just in time for the holiday season, and I'm kind of here for it. But this is from GamesRadar.com. I think this is also kind of slash was it Total Films website as well. But it says Timothy Chalamet understands worries that Wonka could be a cynical money grab. But one thing immediately sort of changed his mind. And I think in the time period, in the day and age that we live in, when we think of like remakes and reboots, like Disney immediately comes to mind, right? Like people always say, oh, I'm tired of these reboots. Why don't they make original content, sort of thing? And it seems as though Timothy Chalamet's about to address that here. This is an exclusive from them. And Timothy says he understands the skepticism around remakes, but he assures fans of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that this new prequel movie, Wonka, is a story worth telling. He says, like many people, when there are remakes, I feel very protective over the original character and versions you love. He says, your eyebrows go up with skepticism about whether this is a legitimate, worthwhile story for a cynical money grab. But I was reading the first 3 pages of the script, and the song "Hat Full of Dreams" was in there. He continues, referring to the movie's musical number. He says, and there was no music to accompany it, but the lyrics were so clever. It's about this young Willie who was definitely not the crazy, cynical, kind of jaded, brain fried version that we see in the two prior films, but was very hopeful, young, ambitious, won't take no for an answer, maybe a little naive. He says, I think that's very clever. And he says, although his viral high school musical videos may suggest otherwise, Chalamet admits that he wasn't actively looking for an all singing, all dancing role before Wonka came up. He says, look, I love musical theater and I love song and dance. And I love old Fred Astaire movies and original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. I didn't think I'd get a chance to do it, not like this. But Paul King is one of those directors that you just don't say no to. And Stuart, I will say, when it comes to Timothée Chalamet, I don't know many movies that I personally have had the opportunity to really see him in yet. I still haven't seen the first Dune movie. I don't even know truly of what his catalog is like. So for me, being introduced to Timothée Chalamet's, like, I feel like I've seen him pop up maybe as cameos here and there just because of how big of a name he is. But as far as sitting down and watching a full movie by Timothée, I don't know if I've ever done it before. I'm gonna have to look at his IMDb and see what other films that he's taken part in. But I love an actor that has range. I myself am a sucker for musicals. Fred Astaire was fantastic in regards to his ability to not only act, but also be able to perform and dance and sing on screen. And to be able to have an actor that's capable of doing that, I will say it feels like it's extremely rare these days, with the exception of maybe somebody like a Hugh Jackman, who I think is like a renaissance man in and of himself. I mean, this guy can do everything. I think Tom Holland might even be capable of doing something like that as well. But I want to see Timothée Chalamet just knock this out of the park. And I think based off of his love for musicals and for singing and just seeing the people that have inspired him in his career, this may be like one of Timothy's full range, incredible performances. While I know that this man has kind of been on the map before in regards to his performances, I don't know if he's ever been nominated for an Oscar. Let me know if I'm wrong in that regard, Stuart. But I think that something like this could really put Timothée even more on the map of really showcasing everything that this man can truly do. And for me, that really kind of excites me. And so I'm glad to see that Timothy's not one of those characters that is just going out there for a paycheck, that he really is reading these scripts, trying to find where he certainly fits into them as an actor and maybe what he can personally bring out of it even more. And so I do think he's got a good eye for picking good scripts that definitely benefit him and hopefully will help elevate this property certainly going forward. And I think just based off of the trailers that I've seen from Wonka so far, it is that wide eye sort of naivety and that I want to accomplish big things that really has me intrigued as to what Wonka's story was like before he was brain fried, as Timothée likes to put it in there. And I think that's something I could probably connect a little bit more with compared to the other, outside of the Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka movie. I didn't really care for the Johnny Depp one, but this is one that I'm actually really intrigued with. But Stuart, you hear these comments from Timothée in regards to, hey, look, I understand the concept of remakes worries a lot of people, but this is why I came on board. Do you think this will ease the worries of some people? And what do you think about his approach about, jumping on board this film?
Um, so as far as his approach, I think it's kind of cool that he, wanted to see the script first. And I think it's cool that just the lyrics are alone are what won him over, that he didn't even need to hear what the music itself was going to sound like, that the lyrics themselves were enough to kind of win him over. And it's cool that whoever the producer is of the movie clearly was okay with him mentioning that in the interview, because usually you're not allowed to mention anything about the script if you're an actor. So that's pretty cool. And I do fully believe him. Like, whether or not this movie is good or bad, I do believe that he believes that this is not a soulless remake, that it's actually got a lot of heart behind it and that it does have a good story to tell. And yeah, I do agree with him with the director chosen to do this Wonka reboot. I do think that getting the director of Paddington was kind of a perfect choice.
Ah, yes. You can see it in the trailers too.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can definitely see like kind of similar vibes going on. But that all to be said, I don't know if this will really win anyone over. I think people who have decided that this is a soulless remake before watching it have already kind of made up their minds for the most part, and I don't think anything anyone says would change it. For me personally, I'm not gonna judge it yet. I'm just gonna say that my interest, this hasn't changed my interest, but it hasn't increased it either. I'm still very neutral about this only because the trailer didn't win me over very much. It just didn't look like a fun trailer to me. But that's just me. I still will definitely check it out like at some point. It's just not a movie I'm in a hurry to watch, that I'm not like super enthusiastic about. But of course that could change if like, reviews come out and they're amazing and it's saying, oh, you got to see this now. Then of course that'll probably change my mind. But in terms of whether or not this interview is going to like, win some people over, I don't quite think so. I think that most people who have decided it's a soulless remake have, I don't think they're going to change their minds about that anytime soon.
Yeah, they probably won't change their mind, at least, like you said, until the movie's released and they start hearing, other aspects of what this film could certainly entail. So you're probably right in that regards. But look, guys, I want to know your thoughts. You hear what Timothee Chalamet has to say about Wonka. What's your idea of this film? Are you excited for it? Does it intrigue you? Do you like Timothy as an actor? Do you think he can bring something to this franchise that maybe Johnny Depp or Gene Wilder certainly couldn't? Definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section box.
Oh, and then as for your question earlier, whether or not he had any Oscars, I don't see any Oscars on here, but he has had 2 Golden Globe Award nominees, which
Okay.
are to me more impressive than the Oscars, honestly. But that is, he got a nomination for Call Me by Your Name, a
Okay.
really good movie, and then Beautiful Boy, also a really good movie. That's the one, he got Best Supporting Actor in that one, but it's the one with Michael Scott from The Office playing his dad,
Okay.
and he plays a meth addict in it, and because his body is just so naturally skinny, he just straight up looks like a meth addict, and he plays it way too well.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out, man. I'll have to check those out. I have been intrigued in Timothy. I've always been wondering, like, what's the big buzz about him? Like, why does everybody talk about this dude all the time? But again, that just goes for somebody that hasn't really seen him in anything. So I definitely need to check out his catalog, especially him in Dune, since we are expecting part 2 to drop sometime next year as well. But guys, again, let me know your thoughts on Wonka and Timothee Chalamet in the comment section box below, guys. All right. I think that will do it for all of our main topics. Now, Indy, Stuart, I know you mentioned you might have to leave early. Is this about that time or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
should take off, but it was
Okay.
really good seeing you. Really good doing this podcast.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm glad I got the Jay and Silent Bob expert to join me here today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely try and see you next week, Stuart. But be safe out there, man. Okay.
Sounds good. I will see all of you amazing human beings next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, brother. And with that out of the way, we will move on to our next segment of the show.
And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get to your guys' live viewer questions. Again, if you want to know how do I submit a live viewer question, it's pretty simple. I'll even go ahead and navigate you guys through it. So just simply go over to our YouTube channel, A+ Hero Report, as you see right here. Click down on that community tab. And usually late in the week, it's turning into like Fridays or Saturdays. I will usually go ahead and post a live viewer question post here for you guys to certainly go ahead and drop some questions. And feel free to ask us anything, man, whether that be Marvel related, DC, Star Wars, Power Rangers, anything movie, television related, anything about me or our crew personally. Feel free to certainly go ahead and ask us at any time. So let me go ahead and bring this in. We'll sort this out from newest first. And let's dive into this, man. Marcelino, do you think HBO Max's Santa Inc. deserves the hate that it got, or is it an underrated gem? I've never actually even heard of Santa's Inc., honestly. And for a guy who's big into Christmas, well, this is a 2021 television show. That's even more intriguing. Oh, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, 1.7 out of 10 in IMDb. Santa is an American stop motion adult animated Christmas comedy miniseries. Okay. I see Seth Rogen as Santa Claus, Sarah Silverman as Candy Smalls in here. What's the rest of the cast look like? Craig Robinson as Junior, Gabori Sidibe as Goldie. They got some great actors in here too. I have not heard of this one before, Marcelino. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. Maybe there's something I'm going to have to explore at one point in time. I'm wondering why it got the hate that it does, but I just don't know off the top of my head. But I appreciate you bringing it up to me. I'm very much like when it comes to Christmas time. I think the latest addition to like my Christmas list of like must watch that I've added is the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special that's on Disney Plus. We watched it like 2 times last year. We're probably going to go ahead and watch it again this year for sure. But I'm more the classic guy. Give me like Elf. Give me Home Alone. I think we were just watching some of Home Alone 2 earlier today. What is it? The Santa Claus, I believe, with Tim, Jingle All the Way. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't remember the last time I watched like Miracle on 34th Street, but this is a ton of other ones. A Christmas Story we watch all the time. I even really enjoyed the sequel to the Christmas Story that they wind up doing a couple of years back. So yeah, maybe I'll have to check out Santa Inc. this holiday. You also say, how come Supergirl didn't reference the concept of doppelgangers outside of the crossover? When Supergirl became part of the Hourverse, I was hoping the production crew would bring up past actors to portray alternate versions of themselves. I wasn't expecting something like a version of Cisco who would stick around for a full season, but I was expecting something like Easters, or cameos, or even villains of the week portrayed by an actor who had already played the character previously. When Cadmus was announced for season 2, I thought that they would recreate their own Earth 38 Amanda Waller. I thought Amanda Waller would be president of Earth 38, played by a different actress. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't reference the concept of doppelgangers outside of the crossover. I mean, didn't they get the original Supergirl to play the mother for Kara in here? I believe the mother of Kara and them was played by one of the previous Supergirl. That might be like as close to any doppelganger of Supergirl being on this show, but they didn't really like utilize her again to then create another version of Supergirl on the show. But yeah, I don't know why they didn't go that route, Marcelino. But I dig the concept though. I think it's something they probably should explore a little bit more for sure. Let's see here. What else we got? Blossom, been thinking of this question for some time now. Why do stories in comic books change so much? I mean, holy macaroni manoli, it's hard to keep up. Um, yeah, look, I have had my issues with comic storytelling lately, and it's really just the how do I put this? Um, It's like the format of their storytelling these days. I don't remember comic books in the past having so many damn reboots, constantly starting off from a new issue number 1. It's very much like they have 2 to 2 to 3 years of a story arc of something, and then it gets wrapped up, and then it's like a new launching on point. Um Comic books used to not be that way. I mean, if you look at something like Wonder Woman, right? Like Wonder Woman literally just had their 800th issue a couple months ago. And I don't want to say they rebooted it, but they started a brand new arc with a brand new creative team. And now they've relabeled it number 1. But I think in underneath it, it says Legacy issue 801 or something like that. But lately, these days, I mean, it feels like you've got yourself like a new X-Men series like every year now. So it does make it a little bit harder, I think. Well, I can't say it makes it harder. I think maybe even before they started doing this, it might have been harder to just jump onto a comic book because of the fact that you had so many legacy issues before it, that maybe for some people it felt a little bit overwhelming. For me personally, growing up as a comic book fan, which is, I didn't mind it whatsoever. But it does feel like now that society and things have changed when it comes to comic book storytelling, like comic books don't sell as well as they used to. So you now have to kind of draw in new viewers to these comic books. And I think with us having such a limited sort of attention span these days, which is just sad if you ask me, it feels very much like turnaround has started to happen more and more and more. The ability of telling a story arc, wrapping it up, and then bringing in like a new creative team to kind of take over and tell a new story so people can jump on board there as well. So I think currently now there are probably more opportunities to jump in board just completely blind in comic books and sort of start fresh. I think DC does a pretty good job about that. Marvel, I'm just getting back into Marvel comics after a little bit, but they might be trying to do things like that as well. So just societal change has really had the turnover for comic books, I think, more quickly than even I personally would like. But I would be lying if I said I do think it does allow for um a much more a better jumping on point for newcomers to comic books. I'm just an old school head like that just maybe doesn't like the way that it's handled these days. Um, you also say, I know I asked this before, but is there a way I can use a Cosmic Fury Zords for my Star Guardians? I'm kind of stuck finding a way to do so. What do I do? I mean, I think you could come up with other Zords. I don't think you necessarily need to use the Cosmic Fury Zords. I mean, I would just say based off of whatever theme that you have for your Rangers, maybe come up with constellations, maybe see if you can find other galaxy names that have been discovered by NASA using their big ass telescopes and stuff, right? Like maybe go above and beyond what we know just here in our own galaxy, and maybe start creating some Zords based off of further out galaxies that we'll never get the opportunity to explore one day. Maybe tackle something along those lines. If it matches up with your theme, of course. Peg C, what's up, Peg C? Good old Ram Jam coming through. What are your thoughts on the animated movie Urkel Saves the Movie? Is it a movie that you'd be interested in watching? I've never animated movie Urkel Saves the Movie. Oh, Urkel Saves Santa the movie. Okay, yeah. What year is this? 2023. I would assume if it's Urkel, good old Jaleel White has got to be back, probably reprising his role. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section box below. I used to love Urkel in Family Matters back in the day. Good old TGIF. Best way to spend your Friday night, sitting down with your family, watching like 2 hours worth of sitcoms. Those days are long gone, but I do miss me some Urkel. It's funny you brought Urkel up though, because Ryan Reynolds who just recently went online and discussed the Deadpool 3 set photo leaks. And Ryan Reynolds and his crew had some fun of their own, creating their own fake leaks, if you will. And the photos that they created, one of them not only had the Predator in it, but there was also another one. I think you can see Hugh Jackman as Logan. And then there's a Steve Urkel in there, maybe doing one of his dances or something like that. So Steve Urkel has been pretty prominent in pop culture within the past week or so. So no, I have not checked out Urkel Saves Santa the movie, but it might be one that I'm interested in checking out. That might be like the second. That might be the second Christmas themed thing that I got to put on my list this year. So yeah, Santa Inc. and Santa Saves Urkel Saves Santa the movie, an animated miniseries it looks like. So, or at least an animated movie. So yeah, maybe I'll check them out, Peg C. Appreciate you mentioning that. Have you checked out the documentary on Milli Vanilli? If so, what were your thoughts? I have not checked out Milli Vanilli either. I do know I've seen commercials for it. I don't remember if I've seen them just on my streaming services or what, but Milli Vanilli was super popular back in the 90s, or maybe late 80s also. Girl, it's true. ooh, 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 I love you. And but you know, they were super hot back in the day. But I thought the criticism surrounding them was the idea that they were lip syncing the whole time, that like it wasn't even them, that they had somebody else sort of like lip syncing like they were lip syncing, but somebody else was kind of singing to it. I don't know how they got that by back in the day in like the 80s and 90s. Like you would think that somebody would pick up on that sooner, but I believe that's what the issue was with them, and that's where like they really lost their namesake, if you will, for Milli Vanilli, was the idea that they weren't really truly who they say they were, type of thing. If I'm mistaken, let me know in the comment section box below. So it does make me intrigued to want to go ahead and check out the documentary, just because I was around during that time when they were so popular, and I kind of would like to know the true story behind it. I don't know if I've asked this question before, but if Walter and Austin and Toy never left the show, do you think Zio would have existed? I do. I do. I don't know if that was the plan all along to eventually turn into something like you know, Zeo and then to Turbo, whatever the case may be. But I do think that Zeo probably would have still existed. I don't know if they just changed it the season just because of the brand new crew, or if this is the idea of progressing on to new powers was going to happen either way. I like to believe that it would have. So I personally would say yes. I think Zeo would have still existed regardless if Walter, Austin, and Toei didn't leave for their peace conference. Doomsday, what's up, Doomsday? Throughout Beast Morphers, why do you think Nate and Steel kept using Beast X Morphers instead of the Striker Morphers during their Instamorphs? I wonder if the Beast X Morpher just took less time to morph. I don't know. That's a good question, Doomsday. I don't know off the top of my head. In the Time Force episode, Trust and Triumph, do you think it was a little unfair that when Wes said that Jen didn't see the Silver Guardians, she claimed that she did see them and was changing the plan until he decided to go it alone? Like, to me, that was unfair of her to say, because if Jen was changing the plan, she should have said that over the chronomorphers. I probably would agree with you there. Probably would agree with you there. Going to another question though. Marcelino said, I don't count Kara's mother as a doppelganger. Yeah, I don't count her as a doppelganger either. I just treated her as her own character, especially since they didn't even bother to have her suit up again to play a doppelganger version of herself. Yeah, I think that's what I was just talking about when you talk about the idea of like missed opportunities of doing more doppelgangers. I think it would have been cool to have Kara's mother actually play a doppelganger at some point in time, but that just didn't happen. So I don't count her as a doppelganger too, but another opportunity where they probably could have and just never did. What do you think of James Gunn once again casting his brother Sean Gunn in one of his movies? Are you surprised? I'm not surprised that he cast him. I'm just surprised as to who he cast him for. Sean Gunn is already cast in Creature Commandos, if I'm not mistaken, to voice Weasel. So I expect him, if Weasel is in another live action, I expect Sean Gunn to also portray Weasel in some sort of like motion capture kind of suit. But so no, I'm not surprised that Sean Gunn is going to be in one of his movies. I'm more surprised about who he got him to play. So maybe it gives us an idea or a sense as to who this character is, like what type of character he's going to be. And last but not least, Jessica Friedman came through. Why did Supergirl, Superman and Lois, The Flash, Arrow, Stargirl, Black Lightning, and Riverdale were given time to wrap up their storylines, while Legends and Batwoman, Nancy Drew got canceled without the chance to wrap things up? And do you think Lightspeed Rescue is an underrated season of Power Rangers? It's been a minute since I've seen Lightspeed Rescue. I enjoyed it. I can see why people would say it's underrated. I probably would want to go back and check it out before I personally say that it's underrated, because I appreciated it for what it was. But it is one of those things, like if I go back and rewatch it again, because I think I've only done a full rewatch of Lightspeed Rescue just once. So the idea of maybe going back and checking it out might be a good idea. So again, I enjoyed it for what it was. But maybe seeing it again is a little bit more eye-opening. It's something like, yeah, you know what? people really been sleeping on this series. So I do think some people have underrated it for sure, but there definitely might be potential for more there. As far as why these other series were given time to wrap up their stories, I mean, look, Batwoman, Nancy Drew, they all came rather late to the party, with the exception of Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois probably survives based off of just the immense positive reviews behind it, the levels of viewership that it wind up getting. Whereas, Batwoman was already kind of iffy for fans. People are already shit on that series before it even came to fruition. The ratings eventually declining over time, sort of thing. I think maybe ratings for Legends too, even though Legends was around for a while. I just think it was just bad timing, unfortunately, for those shows coming at the tail end of like CW's big success, if you will. CW really trying to change what it wants to do is like present itself. The merger that wind up happening with new management kind of coming on board. So I just think it's that opportunity. Look, I always am bummed out about the idea when people aren't allowed to finish the story that they want to tell, and we're stuck on things like just cliffhangers, unfortunately. So yeah, it's just how the business is, unfortunately. Gotham Knights was nice enough to actually have a decent wrap up. I can't remember if there was a tease for more, but I think they might have known ahead of time. I just think it's always imperative that you tell your creators if a show is coming back or not, instead of just allowing them to write and then deliver the news shortly after the season. So it is unfortunate, unfortunately, but I think those shows that you mentioned before already had a big establishment in the Arrowverse and certainly earned that opportunity to wrap itself up. So a little unfortunate, a little unfortunate. Let me just re-upload this to make sure I did get all the comments here. So no late additions. So thank you guys for everybody's questions. Marcelino says Sean Gunn will play GI Robot in Creature Commando, so he'll play 3 different characters in the DCU. I mean, look, Sean Gunn is good when it comes to his voice acting and his motion capture. So, him playing these 2 animated characters certainly makes sense for me. But yeah, so it's like, look, bro, I got your voice in these shows. Now we're about to get your face in this DCU. So yeah, man, we'll see who else he winds up bringing on board. Marcelino says, I don't think Lightspeed Rescue is that underrated. It is in some people's top 10. You're right. It definitely is in some people's top 10 for sure. But that will do it, guys, for all of our live viewer questions today. So thank you, everybody, for certainly participating in the questions, giving us your thoughts on all the topics that we had the opportunity to cover today. I love doing this show, honestly, and I love picking your guys' brains and hearing your positions and thoughts on things. And even if we don't necessarily agree all the time, I love the respectful discourse and the back and forth that we certainly have. Yeah, man, I love doing the show with you guys. So thank you so much for your continued support each and every week. Now, listen, we will be back later on next Sunday for you guys, so certainly look out for that. We are working on a most anticipated movies of 2024 for you guys. We did record it this past week. I'm going to take this week to edit it. And then you can expect it to drop not this Monday, not tomorrow, but next Monday. Also have a couple other videos that I'm thinking about filming for you guys. I'm behind on my Doctor Who specials. I do plan on doing special number 2 review for you guys this week, as well as special number 3. So we do have some Doctor Who content that's going to be dropping on this page for you guys as well. And any snippets, any shorts, any news that drops throughout the week, maybe some trailer reviews here or there. We'll definitely continue to keep you posted throughout the week. If you're not following us on our TikTok, feel free to follow us on TikTok at Hero Report. We also have a Discord for you guys. If you like your forum communities, I'll put a link in the description box below so you guys can join our Discord as well. And we do post all these episodes in audio format over on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to your audio podcast. You can find us at A Plus Hero Report. But other than that, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet. But we will be back later on this week with more content for you guys. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.